Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association, and tonight we want to have another guest on our special series of individuals that are running for elected office, whether it's city council or school board. Tonight we have Pattie Mansur, current school board member, and are you running unopposed or what?
I
Tell
am.
our audience.
So my name's Pattie Mansur, and I am running for Kansas City School Board for a 2-year term as an at-large member of the school board. This will be my second term. I am finishing up my first term, which was a 5-year term at large. And at this point, I've actually secured my seat.
All right. We want to cover a couple of different subjects. First of all, I want you to, in your words, tell our audience who you are and how you got on the school board. But I want you to go back to your grade school, high school. I want our audience to know a little bit about you. A lot of times, my guests will say, "How much time do I have?" And I'm like, "You have all the time in the world. We own this. Let our people know who you are."
Okay. Well, I'm a Missouri girl. I grew up in Missouri. I've gone to public school my whole life, kindergarten through 12th grade, and then I went to the University of Missouri-Columbia for my undergraduate degree, and I went to University of Missouri-Kansas City for graduate school. So I've been in public education as a student really my whole life. I grew up on the east side of the state in St. Charles, Missouri, primarily. And when I moved to Kansas City.
And when was that?
Moved to Kansas City in 1987. My husband was hired as the lead education writer at the Kansas City Star, Pattie Mansur. He wrote about the Kansas City public schools, and I think he had that beat for a good 6 years. He then moved on to other kinds of beats, and he covered local government, he covered county government, he was an environment and science writer, but it was covering education that actually brought us to Kansas City. We did not have children at that time. Because I didn't grow up in Kansas City, I think in some ways I was fortunate. I did not have the burden of some past history related to the Kansas City public schools. I was not held back by that in any way. So when we had our first child, and that child became of kindergarten age, we decided to put her in a Kansas City public school. A lot of people said, "You can't do that. You can't educate your children in the Kansas City public schools. Those schools aren't for you." And I said, "What's kindergarten? I'll decide for myself. I'm not going to take other people's perspective on that." We put that child in kindergarten in Kansas City public schools, and sort of the rest is history for us.
Didn't you? How old are they now?
Well,
Because I thought when I interviewed you about 4 or 5 years ago,
yes,
somebody was at Lincoln at the
yes.
Oh, that's why let the
I have
public know.
3 children, and they are now ages 30, 25, and 21. They all 3 graduated from Lincoln College Preparatory Academy, and one's in college. The middle child is actually a teacher in the Kansas City Public Schools. She's teaching 4th grade at Gladstone Elementary School.
Excellent.
Very proud of her. And proud of all 3 children, but I'm very excited to have
So you've been involved in education most of your adult life.
Yes. But, I started out like a lot of people and a lot of women, especially just as a volunteer mom. I was always a working mother, still work, but I volunteered all the time in my children's schools. And I decided, I think early, that I wanted to be, instead of the parent who sat on the sidelines and was unhappy with how the schools were going, I didn't want to sit in the stands and throw, spitballs at the
I'd be like, that's the peanut gallery up in the stands.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to be, yelling from the stands. I decided I wanted to be in the game. And what that meant for me in the early years was that meant being a volunteer, being a vocal advocate, working to make sure the schools were better, being involved in the school advisory committee, the SAC. It just meant that I wanted to be a contributor to the school system instead of sit there and complain about why I thought it wasn't working for me.
All right, skipping gears, let's talk about the tip tax and how that has affected the Kansas City School District real quick.
Well, if everyone's sort of paying attention that there's a couple of big races going on, a lot of big races going on in Kansas City, mayoral race and also city council race. I've attended 5 mayoral forums so far. I think the number one issue that's coming up, well, maybe there are 2 top issues. One is public safety, crime and violence. And the second big issue is I believe that Kansas Cityans of all types, from all parts of the city, are demanding change in the way development incentives are happening in this city. And I believe now, for the first time, I'm hearing that people really understand that it's important to have development. We want development. It's critical, but we've got to come up with a modified approach so that we're not
some type of equitable distributing of the economic and the things that drive a city and improve a city.
Yes, because what happens is if we abate taxes or if we excuse developers from paying their property taxes, paying the monies that they would normally have to pay, that's not just something that doesn't affect us, it affects all of us. Actually, it means the school district does not get our portion of those taxes. That means the public libraries won't get their
all right,
portion.
this is changing gears real, and I'm going to be talking about sports right now.
Okay.
All right, so when you look at the suburban school districts, and they have 2, 3, 4 gyms, and even our most of our schools, they have one gym that the drill team, the soccer team, the cheerleading team, everybody's got to use. And yet we're supposed to be on the same competitive field with these other entities. And that's all due to a lack of funding. And I say to the corporate community, and they know this, and educators know, if the Kansas City School District really was working right, there wouldn't be no Johnson County School District, because the people would not be moving into the suburbs. They you know, it's almost you got to take a choice. The young professionals that are coming out. Do I want my, and they understand the importance of education.
Right.
And so that the pre-K and all of this makes a difference. And so in your words, from a financial end, make our audience understand, or if you can, in your words, the difference in these tax incentives and how that really affect the pre-K and other things that are.
Right. So what happens is if we're not getting our portion of the taxes, then that means we don't have the additional revenues in hand where we can build the additional gymnasiums, where we can add additional science labs, where we can really blow out our career and technical education. We don't have those funds. In addition, the Kansas City Public Schools has not had a tax levy increase passed for our district since 1969. There are a lot
coming out of high school.
There are a lot of complicated reasons that around that, and there's been which would be hard to walk through, but we have not had a tax levy increase passed.
Is anybody championing that?
50 years. Well, I think we're on the brink of getting to a place to come back to Kansas City and say 50 years is too long, and we deserve a chance. We deserve a second look community. Think about it. We scored the highest we ever had on the state assessments this year. Those assessment reports came out February 1. Kansas City fully earned through our own
This
effort.
accreditation.
Accreditation.
Well, why are
all
some
the
people
points for
saying?
accreditation.
Some people are saying that that's not full accreditation. I don't understand.
Okay.
Maybe
Sure.
you can explain the dynamics because
yes.
we're accredited,
Right.
Then
No.
they shoot me down
No, yeah,
or
okay.
something, and I don't
So-
have to. So I figure my
I don't-
audience doesn't
yeah.
have it either. You
I don't
might
want
be
to
talking
shoot you down, but I will tell you we are not yet fully accredited because only the Department of Elementary and Secondary
tell them.
Education and the State Board of Education can make that decision. We have secured the points. We did it through hard work. That data is not, there's no gimmicks in there. It's ours. We
Imperial
earned it
scientific
through-
data.
Yes, we earned it through hard work. Now it's up to the state to award us the designation. So what you can say, or what we say, is we've reached the threshold for accreditation. We've met the expectation.
What can our community do to encourage the state and our lawmakers to make this official?
Well, I think two things the community can do is, one, be a champion for us.
What does that look like?
Okay, so what that looks like is talk about us positively. Make sure that when you talk to your state legislators that you have something positive to say about the schools in your community. We understand that our schools don't work well 100% of the time, but that's the case in any district. You can go to any suburban neighboring district, whether here in the Kansas City metro area or in Johnson County, Kansas, and discover there are schools that are not working exactly as they should. But be a champion, number one. Always speak positively to your local city council leaders and your state representatives, because if you as a citizen speak positively about our schools, they will change their mindset. If all they hear is negativity, then they will accept that negativity and think there's nothing else there.
So, in essence, one key word, mindset.
Mindset, yes. We're changing, we have to change mindsets. When I'm out in the community and people immediately start talking about negatively about the Kansas City Public Schools, honestly, 9 out of 10 times they haven't been in one of our schools, maybe forever, or maybe not for 20 years.
I'm switching up on that. That's just like racism or people that have not been exposed to other cultures or
Yes.
what have you. And say, well, I don't like this or don't like that. Have you ever tried it? Do you
Right.
have any black friends? Or do you know? And that's the same thing across the board. I use
Right.
that because that's, topic of the week or
Yeah.
whatever. But unless you're trying new things, and that's what education is about. It's like, I think I talked to you about this, my little 17-year-old.
Yes.
I don't want to go to the Kaufman Center. I want to, be in the hood or
Right.
I want to do what but you go and then, oh, that was really nice.
Yes.
When is the next,
Right.
and so if you're not exposed and our district is not, the money's not there to give our kids the full exposure that they deserve.
I think that's true. I mean, we obviously need more resources. There's no question. But I will also tell you that my children got a great education. I never once wavered in that. I never once said I'm pulling my kids out of Kansas City Public Schools. Part of it is I want to hold the schools accountable, both as a mother, now as a school board member, for higher performance all across the city, not just in some schools.
Cut
but
you
all
off again.
schools.
Speak to the parents what you think their obligation is.
So, but as a mother and as a parent, I also made sure that I was present, that I raised my voice, I asked questions, but that I also contributed positively. I didn't just only come in when I was mad. I think parents can have a very powerful role. They can change. It doesn't take a lot of parents to change the climate and culture of a school. I think I figured this out when my oldest was in elementary school. I started realizing a group of parents that would band together to work for change or to be a
involved.
positive influence. 25 parents can have influence on the entire culture of a school, can make it more welcoming.
Hear that, parents? Did you hear her?
It's
Get
true.
involved.
It is
You
true.
can make a change.
You can. And so what I would tell families when friends of mine, when they would say to me, gee, I don't know if I can go from the elementary to the middle school. I don't know if I feel comfortable. I think maybe we should switch schools. Maybe we should switch districts. I said, look at what we did in elementary school. Look at how much effect we had. We have power. We have abilities. We have influence. If we stay together, if we move along this path together and continue what we started in elementary, we can have an effect
I'm changing
on
up
middle and
again
high.
on you.
Okay.
People be watching my interviews. They be like, "You be interrupting." I'm like, I'm trying to get other subjects out.
That's okay.
What's your take on Vogue Tech? And because
Yes.
for the last several years, I've been involved with different entities, and everybody sees Vogue Tech. We need Vogue Tech. I go back. You know who Charlie Rose is?
Yes, I
All
do.
right. About 10 years ago when Gates and what's the guy out of Omaha?
Buffett.
Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
All right, so they start getting really involved with
Yes.
public education and what
Yes.
have you. All right, so Charlie Rose had 10 of the top CEOs in America on the show that night, and they were talking about education. And you know what things that all of them had in common, and they talked about? All of them were athletes, and being an athlete, sports played a real part in not giving up, persistence, different things you learn.
Right.
All right. So then they got on to the subject of like Vogue Tech, but not Vogue Tech, but how shop was in the schools
Yes.
when they
Yes,
all came
yes,
up,
yes.
and they talked about having things in theory versus working with your hands
Right,
and
right,
so
right.
forth, and how important that was,
Yes.
and that has been left out. And so bringing the conversation full circle about Vogue Tech,
Yes.
and we've got about 10 years of construction lined up, not just with the
Yes.
airport and what have you. And we have another show called Contractors Corner, and we dive in all this, and we don't have enough technical people. We don't have
Yes,
enough
yes.
people that are in Vogue Tech, whether it be mechanics
Right.
or whatever. And what's your feelings on that as being a school board member and looking at the future of Kansas City
Right.
and the working population?
I think, this is an area of interest and passion for Mark Bedell, our superintendent. He's wholly focused on getting us across the goal line for accreditation, and that's our number one priority. It's got to be. I think that signals to the community that our schools that are working, and they're working for children, and we know how to educate children. But beyond getting that designation of accreditation, he is working on thinking about how to reimagine what career and technical education looks like. The old VOTEC model, we all had, that was in my high school, my brothers did that. And I think there are new models now, and you can see them all around in North Kansas City, and the Blue Valley School District, Blue Valley CAPS, North Kansas City, Lee Summit has Summit Tech. So there are models, and we are adding new programs all the time over at Manual Technical Career in our school over there. We are absolutely adding programs.
Cutting
But
again.
wait, you gotta let me finish. You gotta let me
Go ahead.
finish. So we're adding programs all the time. We've got new partnerships with Kansas City Police Department, firefighters. We're doing a pre-nursing initiative. We have a small culinary program that's being developed. We are looking to add new options. One of the things you will hear Dr. Mark Bedell say, if you bring him on your program.
He's been on several times.
Right. Well, he'll talk about the fact that he would like his next vision for Kansas City Public School high school seniors is that they graduate both with a diploma and also with an industry credential, something else that allows them to be college ready, but also ability to enter into some of the career and technical fields. And then he wants to create pathways for them to go through the community colleges if they're interested in that career and technical aspect, and determine how are the career are the community colleges ready to take those students and help them complete out so that they have viable
But
work?
that's where the corporate community comes in to
Yes,
play.
yes.
What is it that you need? What is you going to need in the next 10 years? And then
Yes.
working hand in hand with the educational institutions to create what is going to be viable for us here in
Well, I think there's a lot of support in the business community, and I think they're interested in doing that. I believe they will step up and help us with that process. Still, the business community, whether it's a student who has a college degree or whether they have gone through a technical program and have a technical credential or apprenticeship effort, they still want students who are critical thinkers, good communicators, and strong in their math and science skills. And so part of our job is to make sure all of that is beefed up in our high schools, that students have access to, that they are gaining the math skills, that they are critical thinkers, that they have good reading and literacy comprehension. But we also, as we build out what our career and technical offerings are, some of that work will happen at manual, some of that will actually be positioned within the high school, so students don't have to necessarily leave their home high school just to go to manual.
Tell me this, a lot of the candidates, they have different platforms. Do you have a platform, or some people have I call it platform, they have whatever, 5 points,
Yes.
3 points.
Yeah.
Do you know that they're concerned with? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I think if I don't have a platform.
Oh.
I haven't been on the campaign trail, although I
Right.
have been talking a lot. I've been to a lot of forums. I've been able to talk about the success the district has. Number one, I want that accreditation designation, and I want us to go beyond, because accreditation is a baseline.
Well, you want that.
I
You know,
want it.
you keeping
I
that
can.
definitely in this conversation.
Because I want your viewers to know
understand
that we're not going to let our foot off the gas. That is important, because that'll allow us to stand up with pride in this community.
You're on first base and you want to get the second base so that y'all can get the home.
We are on third base.
You're on third base? Oh,
But
straighten me
we're
out.
just waiting. We are pushing forward. We have to keep doing our business, keep demonstrating to the state. We're serious. We are intentional. We are focused on individual student performance. We are not cutting corners. We are doing it right.
I went to the first time I've been to a meeting in 15 years last night. I only went there for
were you there last
yeah,
night?
I only went there for like 3 or 4 minutes. I took some pictures and just
that's right. I did see you.
Yeah,
Yes.
look. Well, you see how
Yes.
long did I stay?
Yeah, yes.
And then when I left out, the principal of Central came after me. He was like, Carlos, I didn't know that you had Team Talk. You had been shooting episodes at Central and blah blah blah, and he wants to work with us.
Fantastic.
And I was talking to Cherry,
Yes,
all right.
yes.
And so I was telling her this morning, blah blah blah, and I was saying I had went to the meeting, and I've been critical of the Kansas City School District because of my media company, because of what we do in sports, because of what we do in general. Like when Lincoln had their walkout,
Yes,
we
yes.
from the school
The
all
walk.
the way to the whole thing,
To
a
City
bunch
Hall.
of interviews and what have you. And we with the sports programs, we've been
Yes, yes.
all right. We don't get no support from the district. They haven't done anything with us, and I want to work with the district. And so Cherry was more so saying, well, do you want to work with them or don't? And I said, yeah, I want to work with them, but I'm not willing to sweep under the rug of how they've behaved in the past. And they've had a revolving door. When you reaching out to try to do business with them, we have the largest digital network in the city. Where can you do even a one-on-one like this for a half an hour?
Right.
And
That's true.
you're not getting support. You're African American, only digital owned network in the Midwest. You primarily cater to the urban core, and you mean to tell me that these people are not? They don't have to hire you to do. They can at least advertise with you. And when that is not happening, the system is broke. And it's not. it might seem like I'm self-promoting, but it has nothing to do with that. If you have the major African American audience, white, black, or green, and I have a majority African American people of color district, and you're advertising, who are you trying to really reach? And so, my point of view, that type of stuff has to do with the school board members. And when I had Melissa Robinson on, I was like this, all right, Thursday before that Tuesday was the last day that you could register as a candidate.
Yes.
All right, so I found out about this because I was looking to do the interview, and then find out that the whole school board is flipping.
Yeah.
All right, and it's downsizing. So that Thursday, I'm really upset. So I start calling, I won't mention, high-powered African Americans in our community.
Yes.
Did you know this was happening? No, I know the election's coming, but nobody knows that the downsizing, know that, well, who do we got running? All right, so I find this out Thursday, Friday, like I said, that night. All right, and Tuesday is the filing deadline. All right, you got a predominantly district of color.
Yes.
And now you will not have the influence that you have with a 9-member board, and my community knows nothing about it.
We have talked about that redistricting a lot. We had a lot of meetings. Kansas City Election Board held a lot of meetings.
But that's not the point I'm making, Patty.
I hear you.
All right. Yeah, y'all might have had a lot of meetings.
Let's talk about it a little bit.
How do you reach your community that it affects? What kind of things? That's what I'm talking about, the network.
Yes.
What tools were you using to reach the average mom and dad that have their kids in the Kansas City School District so that they know, oh, this is a change. We need to be aware, and we need to be asking our leadership what's going on here.
So one of the things that we've done, well, several actually, in the fall was when all the redistricting, last summer I guess, was when all the redistricting was going on. That was as a result of a law that passed in Missouri in 2013. That law that was put forward by former Missouri State Senator Paul LaVota dictated that in 2019, the Kansas City Public Schools would go from a 9-member school board to a 7-member school board. And that in that process, we would lose 1 subdistrict seat. We would collapse to 2 at-large and 5 subdistrict. Whereas right now, today, we are 3 at-large and 6 subdistrict. I ran for an at-large seat back in 2014. I have secured that seat again for another 2 years. So the term that I will begin in the next 2 weeks will be up again in April of 2021. Something important for Kansas Cityans and for your audience to know is we will actually have to repeat the redistricting process. The reason we have to do that is the school districts are required to redistrict or to redraw their boundaries with every census. And in 2020, we will have a new census. And so when that census data comes back, we will have to again, with the direction of the Kansas City Election Board, we will have to re-examine the boundaries. Now, they may not change dramatically. It's going to depend on the census data. This is regrettable because what happened is, I think what happens is people are confused. They are absolutely are. We had 9 members, now we're going to 7 members, and then we're going to have to do this again. And why did you guys have to do this now? That was one of the questions I got. Why do you have to do this right now? Why couldn't you wait till 2021? Well, it was a state law that required that. We've got of the 7 members that are going to be seated on April 10th is when we'll be sworn in and seated. 4 of the seats are already decided. So the 2 at-large seats are already decided, and subdistricts 2 and 3 are already decided. There are going to be 3 competitive races, and that's subdistrict 1, subdistrict 4, and subdistrict 5. Those are the three competitive races at this time. Now, I think it's important for everyone to know that, sometimes people say, well, that's just terrible. Why don't more people want to run? It's actually not outside the norm in Missouri. If you look at any of our neighboring suburban school districts, there are people who serve on the school boards there for 12, 20, 24 years. Not every school board race every time in every suburban district, just right in our area here, are competitive races. In fact, we have a pretty competitive process. I think it's important that people get to know who the candidates are. I mean, even someone like myself who's already secured her seat, I believe we are accessible to the community, but I know that we can do better and do more.
Right, that's all.
We can do better and do more. But you can find every one of us on the KCPS website. Our emails are there. And I actually publish my cell phone number. So I don't just use a general Kansas City Public Schools
So you don't have the
number.
gatekeeper? Pattie!
I don't have a gatekeeper.
What's wrong with you?
Because I want to be accessible. Here's what I love about public school governance is we are people from the community. We live in the community. We are residents and taxpayers here. We shop in the grocery stores. We do our purchasing here. We are accessible. There are large differences between governance in the traditional public school system and in the charter school system. Charter schools are public schools, but the laws do not require that charter school board members live in the district. They do not require that they live in Missouri. They can live across
I'm switching
the
up
state
again.
line.
I'm switching up.
We are local and we are accessible and we're accountable, and you have to hold us accountable.
No, that's the part I'm
Now
getting
you're
on.
gonna hold me accountable?
No. That's why I was interrupting, because I want to ask you this.
Okay.
How important do you think integrity and all of the things that go with that is? Because I don't see that in overall society.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I'm saying it's a trickle down
Yes,
effect.
yes.
How do you see that? Because that integrity goes with your last statement, accountability, and
Yes.
that's where I don't think that we've had a gap there. Because accountability means you got some teeth into something, so that when your kid does something wrong, they might get the belt, the scolding, or your phone taken. But if it's just you was a bad boy and that's it,
Right.
what do you see integrity
Well,
with the public officials, with your peers, and the whole thing as of 219?
I think it's very important, and one of the things I'm very proud of is Kansas City Public Schools School Board is functioning at a really strong level.
It is.
We are open and transparent. We televise our board meetings. We make all of our board agendas, contracts, everything are publicly available. When you can go and read those contracts on our website, on the board.
All right,
options,
speaking
you can see what those contracts
of those
are.
contracts.
So before you speak, I
All
just
right.
wanted to, I
Go
want
ahead.
to remind everyone, you can find us in the community. I'm very proud of the fact that we are open. That means we're open to your compliments and love, and we're also open to your criticism and challenge, but we are bound by law to operate in the public eye and in the sunshine. We adhere to the sunshine laws and we strive. Now, we are human beings and we sometimes mess up, but we strive to be accountable and accessible to the in all ways.
Well, this is what I was, the gentleman that was running earlier.
Jensen Adams.
Jensen,
Mr. Jensen
and we
Adams.
were talking, and I was saying, when I had interviewed Melissa, she was the first one that I interviewed. That was like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying, why do I got to be an MBE? The majority community don't have to say, I'm a white person, and so all of these are impediments for me to do business with you. I got to fill out papers. I got to prove this. I got to prove that. And then you didn't do that, so we don't do business with you. And so I'm saying, how do you feel about the audience? This is what I say. Some of these things are really difficult to talk about, but they need to be brought to the table if we really want to do change.
So here's my perspective on the MBE and the WBE. I think it's important. I think it's necessary because I understand that we want to live in a society where it's irrelevant. It's the best opportunity, but unfortunately, opportunity doesn't come equally to all people, as we all know. And so by making that a priority for the Kansas City Public Schools and setting goals for us, we can monitor against those goals. If we do not monitor against those goals, we might discover that over a period of time, we are not diversifying business opportunity within our system as we should. In this way, we can look at how are we making sure that there are diverse business owners, homegrown, locally based, who are having opportunity and access to the projects we're doing.
That might be the intention.
Let me give you an example. So everyone who's sort of been tracking the growth of Lincoln College Preparatory Academy knows that we are working to remodel the middle school and do some work at the high school because we are going to reopen the middle school. And there's a lot of construction work and
my grandson goes there.
Good. And there's a lot of development going on there.
Gentleman right behind you, Dielectric, he's got a contract on your new African American firm.
So here's how we did that. In the old days, you would just bundle up the amount of the services you wanted, and you'd have one agreement or a couple agreements, and then you'd put it out for bid. Some smaller firms and mid-sized firms would not have an equal opportunity to bid on those projects because of their size. And so what we did this year, and it was very successful, we asked our
the general contractors and
contractors, McCown Gordon Construction, we insisted, and they did this, and they did it willingly and eagerly. They broke apart the components of the project, held information sessions so that all
smaller contractors could bid.
So contractors could come, learn about the opportunity, and know the process. We signed, instead of 3 contracts, we signed probably 20 plus contracts, which made the parts of that work available to more local, homegrown, minority-owned and operated firms. That's a good thing.
Circulate some of those dollars in our community.
That's a good thing.
All right. I'm proud of you making that happen. In closing, what would you have to say to our audience?
I would say get on board with us, be a supporter. If you haven't been in our schools lately, come through the doors, cross the threshold.
Oh, y'all got a nice one. I told you I went to that meeting last night.
Yes.
When I walked in there, you got the monitors, and
yes.
I'm saying, I was like,
Take a fresh look at us, because we are on the upward trajectory. We've got a fantastic superintendent, Dr. Mark Bedell. He was brought in.
Is he worth his money, Patty? Is he worth his money? All right.
And you've got a strong and high functioning school board. We truly aim every day to be open and authentic and accountable to this community. A lot of good things are happening in our schools. A lot. We've got brand new athletic fields at every single high school.
I see y'all are working on that, and I'm really happy.
At every single school now. We have added AP courses in every single high
that's
school,
what I wanted to ask you.
starting at the 9th grade.
You were talking about that Vogue Tech, and I lost my thought.
Yes.
Have you noticed now, I was looking at the news the other day, now they're making the video games as a accredited college sport.
Yes, I saw that story.
And
Wichita State University.
All right, so when you was talking about the Vogue Tech and the new programs that y'all are implementing, I didn't know whether or not something like that would even be in the future, because you know, with the military and everything, and the drones, and these games are
coding, technology, right? Yes, artificial intelligence, those kinds of things. I can't speak to whether that's in the plans
Yeah,
or
but
not,
I'm just saying,
but
we're just talking about
I can
the
tell you-
future.
I can
Yeah.
tell you that we are creating new opportunities for our students all the time. We've more than doubled the number of students in the early college program that are going to Penn Valley Community College. A shout out to MCC's President Dr. Beatty, who's opened up more seats, who's worked with us to make sure that we, at an affordable rate, that we can make that
So
opportunity.
y'all have a good working relationship, you
with
feel?
with the Metropolitan Community Colleges, absolutely we do. We are bringing so much more to our students, and I think that we've got the right team in place to deliver. And I'm just asking you, get on board with us. Just get out of the stands, get in the game with us.
Out the
because
peanut
it's the only way
gallery.
we can win. Yes.
And in closing, as we always say, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. It's a pleasure having you on the show, Patty.
Thank you so
And
much.
we look forward to you doing the work that you've done, the great work you've done in the past and in the future. And it seems like you have not neglected your responsibility as a parent, as a citizen of Kansas City, and someone that wants to see the right thing done and see our city grow in general, and more collaboration
Absolutely.
than separation.
Absolutely. I really believe it, and I think we are there. I think we're right on the
Cusp.
precipice. I think we've got it, but we need
We
need
need your support.
We need all of you.
All right.
Thank
Pleasure. Good night to all.
This program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.